It's a little sad that we won't be getting any more Fox X-Men movies. For all of their shortcomings and failures, they really did churn out some of the most wonderful movies, including one of my all-time favorites. But all good things come to an end, and at the very least we might be getting some more mutant action in the MCU sometime soon. So at the very least, that's exciting. For now, we have some other great films to look back upon. And in today's video, I wanted to take a look back at the X-Men films and rank my top 10 characters from the franchise. To give you a heads up, I will be judging them based on a few factors, including likability, character arcs in the movies they were in, the performances the actors gave, power sets and action scenes, and just general persona. This is a completely subjective ranking and shouldn't affect the way that you view these movies or characters in any way, just wanted to make that clear. Before we get into this any further, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell if you haven't already to get notified of any rankings in the future. If this video gets a lot of love, then I'll be doing an X-Men movie ranking in the future. Also, if you want to pause this video now and write your top 10 favorite X-Men characters in the comments, I'd love to know what your lists are and have a discussion down below. And yes, spoiler alert for every X-Men or X-Men related film, do not watch this if you haven't seen any of those films or if you just don't care about being spoiled. Alright, let's get into it. Coming in at number 10 we have Jean Grey. Now I want to say up front that I don't think either Famke Janssen or Sophie Turner are bad actresses, and they've proven themselves in other projects as well as in moments during the X-Men franchise. I do feel like, however, though a lot of emphasis was put on this character, a lot of it was butchered in the later films, especially The Last Stand and Dark Phoenix. But Famke Janssen's Jean was a very powerful and calming presence in X-Men and X2, and Janssen played the role extremely well before her character went completely off the rails in X-Men The Last Stand. Additionally, while Sophie Turner's performance was very hit or miss, there were moments in Apocalypse and even in Dark Phoenix where I saw glimpses of a very powerful, potent Jean Grey or Dark Phoenix. And even though those movies weren't received very well, I think many agreed that she gave a decent performance anyways. Coming in at the number 9 spot, we have Nightcrawler, played by Alan Cummings, and Cody Smith-McPhee later on in the younger X-Men films. I'm gonna be honest, when I first saw X2, the opening scene completely terrified me. Nightcrawler is one of the creepiest, scariest looking mutants and has one of the most potent, scariest power sets, and the visual style is unmistakable. But his character turns out to be rather likable, and for that I give the movie massive props. On the flip side, I really enjoyed the younger version of him in Apocalypse as well. I think he was one of the best things to come out of that movie, actually. He was equally as cool, but he was also more human and vulnerable, and we got to see a much different side of the mutant than we have before. He's just a likable character. And I'll give Simon Kinberg credit. In Dark Phoenix, when he just goes off on the guards in the train, that was pretty cool to see as well. In the number 8 spot, we have X-23. Some of these mutants have been in numerous films, but it's incredible to me that this young mutant, played brilliantly by Daphne Keane, made such a huge impact with one film appearance. I mean, the ending scene alone where she's with Logan at the stump, that's just so beautifully acted and performed, and Keane deserves so many props for that. It was absolutely incredible to watch. Aside from that, she's vicious in all the right ways, and it's just so entertaining to see her in action. As Charles points out to Logan in the film, she's very much like he used to be, filled with rage and animalistic type instincts. But it's really those human moments when she's with Charles or with Logan that make her that much better. I know we probably won't see her again in the MCU or in any other films ever again, but what a way to debut, and what a film to debut in. Coming in at number 7, we have Colossus. I'm going to fully admit right now that this is 99% because of Deadpool. Because the Colossus that we got in the main timeline X-Men films was pretty forgettable, and he was really a side player. But the Colossus we see in Deadpool is one of the best things to come out of that movie. Not only is he incredibly funny, but he's such a good foil to Wade Wilson, and the comedic timing is just brilliant. What not a lot of people realize before these films is just how caring the character secretly is. He's just such a polite, Boy Scout sort of member of the X-Men team, and that's what really makes him endearing to me. Coming in at number 6, we have Hank McCoy, aka Beast. Now, we were first introduced to Beast in the third X-Men film, with the legendary Kelsey Grammer playing the role. And while that movie is very much maligned and there really isn't that much good that came out of it, people generally seem to like his portrayal as the Blue Mutant. But when it came time for the younger X-Men cast to come into play, that's when Beast really gets to shine, and all the better for it. This character is given such good character development, and it's played so well by Nicholas Hoult. Especially in X-Men Days of Future Past, you really get to see the inner conflict within Beast of whether or not he wants to unleash his true colors or hide away from it. He's almost like Hulk in a certain sense. He's struggling to decide between controlling his powers or embracing them. And also the scene where Logan goes to the X-Mansion and basically punches Beast out of McCoy is one of the best things ever. Coming in at number 5 and making a name for himself very quickly in the X-Men universe, no pun intended, we have Peter Maximoff, aka Quicksilver. I think everyone's familiar with the kitchen scene in Days of Future Past, and while the mansion scene in Apocalypse may not have been as good in my opinion, it was still so incredibly enjoyable. And while he didn't really have anything to do in Dark Phoenix, Evan Peters' performance is just so likable and charismatic that it's just fun to see him on screen whenever he shows up, and that's a really good thing. And on top of that, there's a really interesting angle that the filmmakers decided to take with him, as they chose to really explore the idea of Magneto being his father. Granted, they gave up on it pretty quickly, but still, it was a little more character development than, say, his MCU counterpart. And overall, you just know that whenever he shows up on screen, it's just gonna be fun. Coming in at number 4, we have the Merc with a Mouth, Deadpool. Now, yes, I know he's not a member of the X-Men officially, although he kind of was in Deadpool 2, I guess, but I'm just including all mutants on this list anyways. And even in X-Men Origins, while the version of Deadpool that shows up at the end of the film is horrific, there were still some glimmers of hope earlier on in the film for this character, as Ryan Reynolds is almost always extremely likable. And then, they gave him his own franchise, and this character just took off. Not only is he extremely funny and likable, but he's also got a really tragic backstory that they actually really dig into in the first Deadpool film. And that not only makes him much more well-rounded, three-dimensional, but it also gives him a clear motivation for why he does what he does. I mean, it's Deadpool, guys. I'm just amazed that Ryan Reynolds was able to take this character that everybody hated in Origins but wanted to see so badly done right, and he did it right. At the number 3 spot, we have Charles Xavier. Now, both Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy killed the role, as they were both absolutely brilliant in their own right, in my opinion. Stewart brought a stalwart leadership quality to the team, while James McAvoy was a more nuanced, wounded, embittered version of this character that breathed a lot of life into the role. I think Days of Future Past for McAvoy and Logan for Stewart was what really sent this character to the top. Both films really elevated the subtleties and inner turmoil for both of these characters, humanizing a character that really was never meant to be anything more than just the leader of the group. On top of that, he's just such a visually interesting mutant with his power set, as he has access to Cerebro and, of course, to telepathy. He is one of the most powerful mutants in the world for a reason, and he really is just such an unbelievably great character. Just missing out on the number 1 spot is Eric Lehnsherr / Magneto. Now, while Charles Xavier may have been the stalwart leader, Eric Lehnsherr is the true epitome of a superhero villain. Not because he's just pure evil and wants to destroy the entire world, it's because he has so many layers. His time as a prisoner in the Holocaust alone makes for such a deep, rich backstory. Mixed in with the fact that he's constantly fighting for the rights of mutants as an oppressed group, but just a little skewed because of his bitter past, and you have such a complex, rich narrative. And then we see later in Apocalypse that Eric is trying to settle down and raise a family, but his family gets brutally murdered in front of him, and that just continues to add more and more and more layers to his character. On top of that, both Michael Fassbender and Ian McKellen give such brilliant performances that it's just so hard to find another superhero movie villain that's better than this one. I would argue that he even tops some of the most iconic superhero movie villains in the MCU, like Loki and Thanos, and he might even rival that of the Joker in The Dark Knight. But of course, there's only one answer for number 1. Coming in at number 1, and who didn't see this one coming, we have Logan, or the Wolverine. First of all, Hugh Jackman is one of the greatest actors in this generation. He is so multifaceted, and his ability to shapeshift into this character is truly beyond brilliant. He's just so unbelievably good in this role. And granted, yes, the movies do make a point of putting a lot of emphasis on this character, a lot more than they do for any other, which helps in deciding which X-Men character is your favorite, but even still, a ton of credit should just go to Jackman for his performance alone. And if his gruff persona and rugged charm and charisma weren't enough for you in the X-Men trilogy or Days of Future Past, we have Logan, where Jackman delivers a performance legitimately worthy of an Oscar. What more is there to say about one of the best movie characters to be on the big screen? We talk about Robert Downey Jr. playing the role of Tony Stark for 11 years, but we forget that Jackman pioneered the idea of what a superhero could be, playing this character for over 17 years. When we talk about people who are born to play the role, I think that the prime example should always have been Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. Enough said.
There's no professor here, I told you that.
Look, kid, you and I are going to be good friends. You just don't know it yet.
So, those were my top 10 X-Men characters from the films. I'd love to know yours down below. Make sure to leave your list in the comments section. Be sure to subscribe and give this video a like to support the channel, and if you want to see more content, then check out the videos on the screen right now. Content's coming every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so stay tuned for that. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.